All right. Welcome back, guys. This is DDP of the Dallas Prospect, joined again by Big Game James. We are ready to talk a little bit of Cowboy football. James, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. We had a good off the air talk. Now we're going to have a good on air talk. I appreciate you bringing me on. And, let's do this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Always happy to have you on here. We got a few things to talk about now that with Cowboys firing up a little bit here as we get ready for everything. We got Buddy Johnson first in the house, says, "What's up, Coach Jay?" Brett
What up,
Bender.
bud?
Brett Bender as well, saying he can finally catch one of these live. Welcome, Brett.
What up, Brett?
And Stevie Mac 23 DDP slash Big Game James. What's up?
Stevie Mac, what up with you?
So let's dive into everything we got here. So I know one of our main things that we were talking about off air that we wanted to carry on air. We want to talk a little bit about the Dak Prescott situation with his new contract, the progress being made in his deal. It sounds like there's been some progress made as of late. We know that we got a counteroffer from Dak's camp, and from that, we kind of have an idea now of what we're looking at. First, what's your kind of reaction to that whole thing? I know we've talked about it before, but for those who might not have heard, let's just kind of hash through it.
My reaction is Cowboys fans, shut the hell up. Just shut the hell up. Just shut the hell absolutely up. Because guess what? You Cowboys fans we can cry all you want. Dak can't do this. Dak can't do that. But you know what? Dak ain't going nowhere for at least 2 or 3 years. So stop talking about him and want you support because the numbers have been good. And plus, when you listen to Dak Prescott in his interview, he said, "Hey, I'm gonna just let my people take care of it, but it's what the market dictates." So he's already talking about the market. So he already knows I'm not taking no hometown discount because I was drafted in the 4th round. My numbers is just as good as the number 1 draft pick. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. Them 2 guys was in my draft, and my numbers are just as good as those or better. And I should take a hometown discount because people are saying I ain't as good. Get the hell out of here. That's crazy. I like to always ask these people that say, "Oh, he should do this and he ain't worth that." So if you were at your job and you was doing all this and doing all that and your numbers was just as good as everybody else or better, yeah, you going to take a hometown discount for your boss. You're not going to do it. So stop saying that crap. Get on board with Dak. He's a winner. Yes, we all know that he's not a top 5. I don't think he's a top 5. I don't think he's a top 10. But I think with the ratings where a lot of people were giving him around 13th, maybe 14th, maybe around there, I think he's that. And with Kitna and Kellen Moore as his coach, I think it can bring him up. So if you look at where he was drafted in the 4th round and you look at his numbers and what the market says, as I said, if Jimmy freaking Garoppolo can play 7 freaking games and get $27 million a year, you're crazy if Dak Prescott can't get that.
No, absolutely, man. For sure, I agree 100%. And it's one of those things, too, where, we look at how Dak has been implemented through his career thus far, setting aside, although I don't want to completely set it aside because as we were talking about earlier, people like to ignore his record, his win-loss record as a starter. They like to pretend he doesn't have a 32-16, or they like to undercut it and act like that's not a big deal and like, oh no, that's ignore that and pay attention to all these other things over here. But if you flip that record, they would be on the complete opposite end and they would be saying that's the one thing you should pay attention to.
He's not a winning quarterback.
Exactly. And when you look at Dak Prescott as a quarterback, what do we find regarding the kind of receiver that works well with him? How did he work with Dez? Not all that great. Not all that great at all. How has he worked with Amari Cooper? It's about a 9-game sample size, substantially better at this point. So that gives us an idea like, okay, so here before, Dez was considered a more Romo-friendly guy. Here is a more Dak-friendly guy, and look at Dak's production kick off as soon as you add Amari. Now let's consider that from a play calling standpoint. How many times have we called for Dak to get not like take off every play. We're not saying Cam Newton or even Russell Wilson this thing, but just to let him use his legs more often. Just let him add that dimension and not just be a sitting duck in the pocket. We've called for that all last season, at least. I mean, we were citing even to the point of being like, when you let him run 6 times a game, this is what his stats look like, and this is how it correlates to the win-loss record and his overall stats. When you don't let him run when you let him run like fewer than 4 times, this is what it looks like. Like we broke it down to that level. But the play calling has never really allowed him to play to his strength. It's still played to a very vanilla system that's not catered to his strength. So that's the whole task now for Kellen Moore, as you mentioned, and John Kitna as well, to build up Dak and coach and set up everything, design everything to his strength, help him see what's out there, and bring out the best version of Dak you can, as opposed to everything you had before, whether it was a more Romo-based offense or what have you. And that's why now we might finally get a chance to see. It might take a few weeks just because it's a new system, a new offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. But you'll get your first real chance to actually see what you're looking at with Dak. I think by mid-season, you'll have a good idea of where you stand with him.
Yeah, I feel you on that. And just to bounce off that Dez Bryant thing, I think that was more indicative of how Dez Bryant, and I'm not dogging you, Dez. Please understand, I'm not dogging you. I'm just talking, please. I think more reality. But when we saw how it didn't work out with Dak and Dez, I think that's more on some Dez, because Dez wasn't never a great route runner. I don't care what nobody says.
Yep.
Dez was not a great route runner. And people, Chris Carter, all these guys were saying, guys who have played the game were saying, he's not the greatest route runner. And you can see Dez was not the greatest route runner. He relied so much on his athletic ability. And how many times do we see Romo always telling Dez, go here, Dez, go there, Dez, do this, Dez, do that? It was Romo always in his ear coaching him. You get what I'm saying? And when Dak came in, he was a young guy. You're supposed to be a veteran and supposed to be taking the lead, but you're not training hard as far as the receiver tree and the route tree and those concepts to help your quarterback out. It's funny, and I'm not dogging you, Dez. I love you, but it's funny when you got Amari Cooper, who is a precision person, who is on it and is meticulous in his route running. How come Dak played so much better with that? Because you have a guy who knows what he's doing and he helps out the quarterback. I don't think Dez helped out Dak. He was always like, just throw me the ball up in the air. You can't always do that, especially when you're starting to decline as a player.
Yeah, 100%. And that was Dez's strength, right? The 50-50 ball, the jump ball, that was Dez's strength. And it has nothing to do with route running. It's just go over the top in a way where it doesn't matter if the guy's perfectly positioned, you can make it happen. Well, I mean, look at the Green Bay catch, non-catch thing, which now, today's standards, catch. And really, even back then, I'm still going to fight you. It's a catch. So look at that then. That's a Dez going over the top play. The cornerback is in good position in that case. That was what Dez did best. Dak needs a wide receiver who can generate separation. That's what Amari does. Amari's route running is absurdly good. I mean, who was it? I believe it was on the Eagles. He tore some dude's like knee up just guarding him on that. Who do you remember who the guy was?
Oh man, it was
like a good corner for them.
He was a very good corner. He was like one of their best
Cromartie?
corners on the team.
No.
I can't remember his name offhand, but he was like their top corner, and he's a very good corner. And Amari snapped that Achilles. He took him in, he took him back out, then he took him back out again, and them Achilles was gone.
And that's
you see Dez do that? No,
he
didn't.
Exactly. And Dez, what was the other situation in which Darby? Thank you, Jay Farmady.
Yes.
Jay Farmady, salute.
Appreciate you.
But the other the other way in which Dez was really effective was when plays broke down. When Romo had to improvise, Dez could freelance really well off of a route. And that's, again, has nothing to do with route running. It just has to do with feel and basically going into schoolyard mode. And that was something that he and Romo were great at. He and Dak never quite found that same rhythm. And it's fine. Again, we're not here to talk about Dez. We're just talking about Dak in that sense. So when people want to talk about Dak, they want to talk about the Atlanta game from 2017 through the first game of Amari here before he and Dak had really any chance to, form anything and build on that. If you look at Dak the last 9 games, or any of the games, or I'd say the vast majority of the games rather, prior to the Atlanta game, you don't have a ton to complain about, especially for, as you said, a 4th-round pick, taken where he was taken, thrust into the situation he was thrust into. I mean, you look around the league, a lot of teams would be more than happy to deal with, Dak as their quarterback and the questions of, I don't know, but can he be an elite guy? Are you not happy with what you have so far? Compare that to, the dark days of quarterback with Henson and Bledsoe and Testaverde and all of those other guys that we trotted in here between Aikman and Romo.
And even when Romo got hurt, we was all crying the blues because I guarantee you, if Romo would have got hurt in 2015 and we had a Dak Prescott backing us up, oh, they would have been saying, oh, yeah, that's the savior. We love some Dak Prescott because he came in relief. But you know what? Get over it how it ended with Romo. As much as I love Romo, you get what I'm saying? I love some Romo. I did. But you know what? He made plenty of mistakes, and he never won anything. And I'm looking in the comments right here. A couple good comments that I'm looking at. Number one, Stevie Mac 23. Just like he said, if you front load the money, which they're probably going to do, they're going to front load that money because they're going to protect themselves. They did it with DeMarcus Lawrence. They're going to do it with these other players. They're going to front load that money first couple of years. And if Dak doesn't keep on ascending, they're going to cut ties. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to be stuck for 7 or 8 years. So Cowboys fans need to chill the hell out. Like, Dallas is not going to put themselves in a bad contract. They're going to put themselves to protect themselves because in this game, you never know. You can playing 3 years and then go in the tank. It happens.
Not
and so
for
the
a long
Cowboys,
week.
you feel me? And they're going to be smart about it, especially with the way Stephen Jones manages his money. So people just need to calm the hell down. And also, one other thing. Do you really think Randall Cobb, bouncing off of J Farm D, do you really think Randall Cobb would have came to Dallas if he thought Dak Prescott sucked? He's a receiver. He's getting passes thrown to him. So if he thought Dak Prescott was not a good quarterback, why in the hell would he waste his time on a 1-year deal when he's trying to get another second contract with a quarterback that he thinks can't throw him the ball?
Exactly. He's less than 30 years old, and he's on a 1-year, $5 million contract. Unless he wanted to be here, why would he be here? And it's not because he had no other options. He had some other options. Now, you could say for $5 million, did he have better options? I'm sure he had better options than that. But Jay Farmady calls out as well that Cobb believes in Dak enough so that he came to Dak about wanting to play with the Cowboys before Beasley even moved on. Beasley wasn't cut. Beasley moved on in free agency, but still, that's absolutely the case from what we've heard. That's true from what we've heard. So Cobb, I think could be an interesting piece with the Cowboys. He's not 2014 Randall Cobb, but at the same time, within the flow of our offense, I think he could still have a very Beasley-like impact. You know, I don't know that you're going to see the layout play like you did in the last week of the regular season against the Giants, but I do think that you're going to see a lot of production in that intermediate zone there, and he might be able to give you some flash plays here and there as well that give you glimpses of 2014 Randall Cobb.
Well, I believe Cobb is going to be okay because, number one, he's already talked to Sanjay Lal with a chip on his shoulder because everybody's saying Randall Cobb is washed up. He's got nothing but injuries. He's on the decline at 28. They think he's an old 28. So he's already out there to prove, and he's a hard worker. And that's what Sanjay Lal said. That's one of the things that has really impressed him, that he is a super hard worker. Mm-hmm. So Sanjay Lal getting a guy like that, and I think it's an upgrade from Cobb to Beasley because, to me, Beasley never offered you really anything after the catch because you were going to catch him. Cole Beasley wasn't catching a pass on the 20-yard line and taking it to the house. That was never, ever, 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 ever going to happen with Cole Beasley. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he couldn't even do any kind of punt returns. You can put Randall Cobb in a backfield as a running back. You can put him in the slot. You can put him on the outside. You can put him in motion. You can do a jet sweep. You can do so many things that you could not do with Beasley. And one second thought on the Beasley thing, even as much as Beasley has talked trash about the Cowboys, when they asked him about Dak Prescott, he said he's a beast.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, Beasley on punt returns and all that was good for pretty much catching the ball, and that was about it. I mean, you never got any kind of return game out of him or anything like that. And I don't mean to completely dogpile Cole Beasley, although he seems to want to largely dogpile the Cowboys and act like he never wanted to be here in the first place. He should just remember while he's over there in Buffalo in purgatory, as he's talking about their facility somehow being better than the Star, he should remember the fact that during his first training camp, the Cowboys coaching staff had to convince him to come back because he walked away. He was ready to completely cut ties with any NFL goal or dream that he had. So I get that you moved on, and I get that you're upset the Cowboys didn't feel that you, at your stage in your career, were worth investing heavily into. But when you can give me Randall Cobb 1 year for $5 million versus giving Cole Beasley what Buffalo gave him, I'm going to take that every single time.
All day. And I tell you what, you ain't going to ball out in Buffalo. I'm sorry, you ain't, Cole.
Exactly. Every time I take that. So it's not even a question to me. I think Dallas made the right call letting him walk away. And again, I don't mean to undercut what he did. He was good
Right.
for us for a
Hmm.
good spell.
Hmm.
And even his last play with the Cowboys in the regular season, that is a play that we're not going to forget anytime soon. The getting the knee down for that insane grab to win the Giants game. That was awesome. But that said, it's still, you're not going to pay him that kind of contract to hang
Oh,
around. You're going to have to move on, especially at that position. And if you can get a guy like they got, it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. But speaking of receivers who
Cole
can make,
Beasley's a powder. He's a powder. He
yeah,
pouts. You
yeah,
get what I'm saying?
he's got that kind of KD thin skin thing going on. He gets
Yes.
in all kinds of Twitter wars with random fans where it's
Yes.
like, why are you talking? Why do you care what he says?
Right.
Like, nobody knew what he said. His 12 followers saw what he said until you put him on a pedestal by responding. It's ridiculous. But yes, it's a weird modern athlete kind of issue thing going on. But all the same, Jay Farmady, is Nate Peterman the quarterback in Buffalo? No, it's Jared Allen, right?
Yeah, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, yes. But yeah, so they've got a rookie prospect quarterback, but yeah, that's what Buffalo's looking at. Cole's not going to do what he did in Dallas and Buffalo, I don't think. He could try and be a rookie's or a second-year player at this point, security blanket, but I don't think he's going to put up big numbers. So we'll
Neither do I.
see. We'll see. Let me ask you this, pivoting to another receiver. Do you have any kind of reaction to Amari Cooper being, I forget what poll it was, they listed him as like the 23rd best receiver in the league? Do you have any kind of thoughts on that? I mean, I know what my thoughts are.
Wow.
I'm curious to get your
Seriously?
thoughts. Yeah.
23rd, they're smoking hella chronic, hella dope, all good give me some of that good stuff y'all smoking, because y'all smoking some goody good. You know damn well Amari Cooper ain't no 23rd best receiver in the league. Are you crazy, man?
The only thing I can think is that maybe they're basing it like they don't watch the games. They're the kind of guys that we were talking
They
about who
don't.
kind of half-ass their work. They don't watch the games, so all they're basing it on is, I'm looking at the box scores here, the season totals and everything, and I'm saying, oh, he had like 75 catches for like 1,007 yards and 7 touchdowns. Yeah, that's somewhere in that range. No, never mind. Yeah, he in Oakland the first 7 games this year, he did next to nothing. But as soon as you look at the 9 games or whatever it was, like including playoffs, once he got to Dallas, dude was a beast. Dude is a complete monster. And when you look at it in that scope, dude's production is on par with a top 5 receiver easily.
Yes, and I mean, if we're talking about the eye test, you've seen what he did when he first came in the league. It's not like he was chopped liver when he first came in the league. He was going ham. But Amari I think he's one of those maybe sensitive type of guys that, if he ain't really feeling you, he just kind of shuts it down. That's what Amari looks like. He looks like he just be shutting it down. If you kind of look at him, he looks like he'll sulk a little bit if it's not going right. And I think that he was not feeling good about the situation in Oakland. He wasn't feeling Carr anymore, and he wasn't feeling the staff. And I feel like that's the reason why his play declined. It wasn't that his play had declined, but his play had declined mentally. And if you're not mentally in the game, if you're mentally checked out, I don't care how good of an athlete you are, if you're not mentally checked in the game at all times, you will not be that player.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened at Oakland. You see him come over to Dallas, it was a whole rebirth. Everybody who talked about Amari Cooper, if you watched Amari Cooper when he was in the top 100, everybody said this about Amari Cooper. He don't talk to nobody. He don't say nothing. He don't do nothing. He just gives the ball and he's done. Well, guess what? That wasn't the Amari Cooper we saw last year, because I seen Amari Cooper shooting footballs in the goalposts. I seen Amari Cooper talking on the sidelines, running his mouth. So that tells me Amari Cooper was happy. And when you're happy and you're playing the game, and so that makes you play better. And obviously, when I listened to what Amari Cooper was saying about Dak all year, he was saying, hey, yo, this kid is good. We have a great connection. I love the way he throws the ball. John Kitna said, I was with Warren Moon for 2 years, and Dak throws a spiral like Warren Moon.
Yep.
What the hell does John Kitna have a reason to lie for?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. Brett Bender's asking who ranked him 23rd. I can't remember the list that did it, but it was covered on
Drug addicts.
Yeah, something like that. It was talked about in a segment on, I think it was 105.3 The Fan earlier today, and there was two lists they broke down. I honestly can't remember the name off the top of my head. I wish I had taken a note at the time, but I was driving. It was one list ranked him 19th and the other 23rd. And yeah, if you're basing that on his box score for the season, sure, okay. But if you look at what he did when he got to the Cowboys and how he fit with Dak, the kind of chemistry they have, dude's production was easily in the top five. I'd probably say third, like top three at that point in terms of receivers. Now, we'll see if he can do it for a whole season for a grander scope. That'll be obviously part of the test for Kellen Moore, who we hear is getting even more control over the offense now. It really is about his implementing his offense, not just slapping his name in the offensive coordinator tag, so to speak, but still running Garrett's system. So that's one reason I'm hopeful for that. I actually think that there could be genuine change offensively for the Cowboys, and getting a younger viewpoint in there could be good. We've heard all this time that Kellen Moore is just this genius when it comes to designing plays and all that. It's not like there's really new plays he's drawing up. It's just understanding how to disguise what you're doing and putting forth, running the same play out of unique looks that teams might not be able to easily discern.
I feel that. I'm just looked at this comment from J Farm D, and he said he was at OTAs Wednesday, and he got a sneak peek, and he said, watch out for Jaylen Gaytan. J Farm D, hey, you don't got to tell me about Jaylen Gaytan. I've been singing his praises from day one. When they talked about picking him up, I was singing his praises, so I'm feeling you on that Gaytan. I really like him. He's a solid 6'2", 200 pounds, started at Notre Dame, went to junior college, had a good career at North Texas. Watch out for him. He and that Javon Johnson from Toledo, both of them are 4'3" guys. Both of them have an opportunity to really make this roster. Sanjay Lal has already spoken glowingly of John Vay, and so I'm definitely feeling you on that Gaytan. And Alan Hearns, I said it. Noah Brown, I said it. And Tavon Austin, y'all better beware.
Yeah, no, for sure. This to me feels like the make or break year for Noah Brown. He's got to break through and actually get on the field to be able to make an impact this year if he wants to be able to hang on. Because, I mean, he's been on those outskirts for a while. He had one complete season basically on the IR, another season where he got a few snaps here and there, but nothing significant in 2017. So it feels like make or break for him, especially when you're considering that he was, a 7th round pick?
Who?
Talking about Noah Brown.
Oh, yeah, he was a 6th round pick.
6th round, that's what it was. So this feels like a make or break year for him to me. Regarding the contract, obviously, of Alan Hearns, even though I feel like as weird as it might sound, he bought himself a little bit of insurance potentially with that ankle injury and the way that he's come back and rehabbed and how quickly he was back at the facility. I feel like he bought himself some serious brownie points to get at least consideration there for hanging around. But we'll see what that boils down to. What I want to see is what the Cowboys offense is going to look like, because we know this defense can ball. We know this defense, if it can ever produce regular turnovers, like takeaways, holy crap, this is an elite defense. This is a top 3 defense if it can just produce turnovers. And although I really like what this team's doing, I still don't know that they found their ball hawk. Do you have any kind of before I jump back to the offense, do you have any kind of thoughts on that in terms of who could maybe fill that role or anything on that front?
I'm going to go with being the ball hawk. I'm not going to say Jordan Lewis because they don't give him no work, and I'm still pissed about that. I love Rashard to death. I think he's a great coach, but I think he's making a major mistake by not playing Jordan Lewis, because Jordan Lewis is a ball hawk. Jordan Lewis can get interceptions. If you watched him, he played a little bit receiver, so he knows how to take that ball out the air. But if you're talking about people who are in the regular lineup, I'm going to go with Xavier Woods. I think Xavier Woods could be that guy. He had a couple interceptions last year. Mm-hmm. I think he's trending up. I loved him. I actually picked him in the 2017 draft for the Cowboys to draft him. He had 14 interceptions in college, 7 his senior year. He is that guy that can break on the ball, take it out the air, and take it back and return it. So I think that's going to be the guy. Of course, you see Jeff Heath gets his, catches here and there. But I think if we're looking at a ball hawk that's on the starting lineup, I'm going to go with Xavier Woods as being that guy because I think he just adds the most out of everybody else. We've seen Byron Jones when he comes back. I love Byron Jones as far as him as sticky corner, but he's just not that guy. He's only had 2 interceptions in his 4 years, and they were lucky interceptions, a Hail Mary and then a tip ball in the air, and he ran back for a touchdown. And Cheeto, I just don't think he's a guy that's going to get a lot of interceptions either. So I'm going to go with Xavier Woods on that front.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Even on the Cheeto front, was great. He's kind of like Byron in the sense that he's a great sticky corner, can stay with his man well, but he's not a guy that will take the ball away a whole lot. And that's honestly for Byron. Someone will pay him big money, but I honestly don't feel in my gut that it's going to be the Cowboys because while we know Pro Football Focus ranks him at the very, very top of cornerbacks in the league, if you're an elite corner, you've got to be able to take the ball away every now and then, and that's just something he's never really done in his career for Byron. So I view it in that kind of sense. I'm hoping, yeah, that Xavier Woods can be that guy. We've seen glimpses of it. Jeff Heath will get his every now and then. Obviously, that Green Bay playoff game, he had the second interception of the game for himself called back. So if they can find consistency in that realm, the defense will go to next level. And then it's just a matter of whether Kellen Moore and his offense can kind of step up and kind of keep pace because we don't want the offense to be the ball and chain that's kind of shackled around the team's ankles. And I don't think that that's going to be the case this year. I look at the offense and I see Dak now kind of coming into his own. We saw obviously how much better the offense got when you added Amari Cooper. Now that he's got a legit route running number one receiver, a guy who, as we just said, should be at the very least in the top 10. I feel very hopeful for what this team can accomplish. Now, longevity-wise, the future of the team moving forward, we're a little bit mixed, and I know the team doesn't seem to be as mixed as we are. Let's pivot a little bit to the latest Ezekiel Elliott story as we take a look on one of the other triplets of the future, present and future. Zeke, what was your reaction? I know you've probably been on live a couple times since then. What was your reaction with seeing the latest Zeke headline and the Vegas, not arrest, but being handcuffed at 3 a.m. in Vegas?
I'm going to keep it all the way real. I was mad as hell, not at Zeke, but I was mad at that dumb security guard with the fake flippity floppy that he did. Like, dude, come on now. I understand with Ezekiel Elliott, everybody say, man, come on, dog. You got to be smarter, bro, because the streets are watching. You a target. That's the only thing I would say to Zeke. You a target, bro.
Yep.
You know they after you. You know you got strikes. And when people know you got strikes, they're going to test you. You know why? Because ain't nothing going to happen to them.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? They can get into it with you. Because you know what? If they get in a fight with you, they made headlines. They in the news. They all in the paper. They feeling good. I'm on Twitter. I fought Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott pushed me over. You know what? That's what they feel good about. So that's where Ezekiel Elliott has to be smart and see that people are out to get you, bro. So you got to be smart. 3 a.m, there ain't nothing good going on at 3 a.m, especially if you had drinks. Ain't nothing never going good. So you got to learn how to chill at the crib. You know what I'm saying? You got to stop, I think, hanging out with maybe the college type atmosphere students maybe and those type. You got to kind of get a different crowd that's a little bit older and mature that's going to say, hey, Zeke, I don't think we should go kick it out that night because we got to do this. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Somebody's got to kind of talk to him and maybe lead him and say, this is probably not the smart thing to do tonight. You get what I mean? But as far as, I don't think it was a big deal. I think that security guard or whatever the hell he did doing that dumbo stuff, falling down like Ezekiel Elliott ran him over like with a football. But like I said, people are going to do that to you now, Zeke. They know you have that over their head, and they know they can test you because they want to see what they can do. And if you push them anything like that, $5 million, Zeke, I'm hurt. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, Zeke, just be smarter, and Goodell is after you. So you just got to be self-awareness. I think that's the biggest thing I can tell. I could say with Zeke, self-awareness. You must have self-awareness because the Cowboys are on a bigger microscope than anybody else, and I don't care what anybody says. And so when you're a star like that, they're watching you to fail. They're wanting you to fail.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, with the Cowboys star, you've got a bigger microscope. 100% agree. Regarding Zeke and all that, I agree he needs to be more careful. I also don't want to completely absolve him of any blame in the situation. I mean, the optics look really bad. Even if this was the first incident and we didn't already have the suspension, which we can, we can talk about his degree of wrong in that and all that's a separate debate. But the fact of the matter is he had the suspension he had, so he knows what the microscope over him has magnified to at this point. So with that being the case, and with the general optics, he's really tried to meticulously reshape his image in the Dallas media here. You see him at the Stars games, and I'm not trying to say that this is entirely like manufactured or manipulated, but he's been careful with his image in the last year and change ahead of this latest story. You had him paying for the funeral of the St. Louis football player. So you have great stories like that. Like that's great. That's the kind of thing that gets your name in the news for the right reason. And just as people were starting to say, hey, you know what? It's been a while since we've had a bad Zeke story out there. Maybe he's turning a corner. Maybe this is like him kind of maturing and growing. This comes out and it kind of undermines that. Even though by itself, if this was the only incident, you wouldn't think of it that harshly, I guess. Because I agree with you. A lot of it is much about nothing. But the optics of it, there are still questionable things there. There's still the verbal altercation with I don't know if it's his girlfriend or just girl he was there with. There's the whole incident with kind of bodying up the guard before he falls. Now, I agree the guard takes a dive, but just the optics of the whole thing and the fact that it's 3:00 in the morning in Vegas.
And a dude is following you the whole damn time with a camera phone.
Yes, exactly. All of that, and the fact that Dallas time, 4 hours later, Zeke had a freaking youth football camp at the Star. Like, you look at the optics of everything, and you're like,
dude, you should be at home.
Yeah,
you should be at home resting.
Yeah, so my takeaway from that is, like, I haven't heard anything bad about Zeke in a while, but now I'm not convinced that it's because he's learned anything. I just think it's because he's been slightly better about being smarter in the time, whether it's having the better people generally around him to kind of handle issues for him or keep him out of those things. I don't know. But the optics of it were very questionable, and it comes at a time when literally within the last few weeks, people I've seen have started kind of going, maybe he's turning a corner. Maybe this is the kind of guy that the Cowboys can afford to. He's 23 years old. Like, you want to give him a new deal. You want to keep him for a second contract. But there is some degree here that still gives me a little bit of pause. For the record, I still think the Cowboys are going to give him the deal. I really do. But it's one of those things where you're still looking at it like,
I have stipulations in that contract, though.
Yeah, then that's what they'd have to do, because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, oh man, do I really want the month in, month out, sometimes week in, week out fear of a Zeke story derailing my star and best player that I'm paying at that point something like $16 million to a year, and suddenly I got to be without him 6 games or 10 games or whatever based on the merit of the suspension. Like, it raises questions. And to me, when this came out, even though if it was its only thing by itself, I would brush it off. But with everything else we know, the St. Patrick's Day thing, which, it was he was friends with the girl, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, but again, it's the kind of bad optics thing. The punching a DJ thing that maybe did or didn't happen in a separate incident while he was being investigated for the domestic abuse thing. Like, you look at things like that and you're like, there's a lot here that I just have some hesitation about tying up a bunch of money into this guy for. I control him for the next 2 to 3 years based on his rookie contract and then a franchise tag. Maybe, just maybe, I should shelve contract talks for one more offseason. Cowboys don't seem to be doing that, though. They seem to be completely undeterred by this. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think they're just saying that in the media. I think they're going to hold off now because they don't have to rush. They have him under contract this year. He's a first-round draft pick, so they have the option year. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to rush. I think they're just saying that to save face, to make it look good, so there doesn't be any controversy around the way what we're dealing with, what the Cowboys are dealing with. They don't want any more controversy. So I think that's the reason why they're saying it. But I think they're going to just sit back and kind of chill and kind of let the season kind of play out. I think at the end of the day, though, Zeke is still immature. I think he is still immature, and he still needs to grow up. He's a goofy. I mean, Zeke is a goofy. Like, he's always playing around, all his pictures you see him, he's always clowning.
Yep.
He is always clowning in the locker room. He clowns a lot. He plays too much sometimes. And sometimes when you play too much, people looking at it like, hey dude, chill out. That's not funny. I don't feel like playing right now. That's the kind of Zeke, because I'm gonna keep it real. You remember last year when Michael Gallup, his brother died?
Yes.
They gave him the game ball,
Mm-hmm.
and they was inside the locker room, and he was about to step up and talk, and Zeke smacked him on the butt, and he turned around right quick and said, "Hey, don't do that."
Yeah.
He turned around, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a serious moment. You giving the game ball to Gallup, and Zeke is, smacking him on the butt, being weird, trying to be funny. He's like, "Hey, don't do that. That's not funny." You get what I'm saying? So that's another instance where Zeke does play too much. I think the fact that he does play too much and he goes overboard with it, that's what gets him in trouble. You had that situation. You see a lot of the people talking about the Dez Bryant situation. He was immature and he had to grow up, and they didn't know if they wanted to give him a second contract because he had to grow up. I think this is a situation that's a little bit different, because I think the situation that Dez was in, Dez came from a rough kind of upbringing.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the reasons that he was getting into things, because he went through a lot of drama. I don't think Zeke had anything alive compared to what Dez Bryant was dealing with. So that's why it's kind of like, Zeke, you kind of acting like a spoiled kid. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Because Dez Bryant came from a rougher, harder situation. Your dad, your mom was in a lot of kind of things. And so you can see why, maybe you see why Dez kind of acts this way, because of the upbringing that he went through. Mm-hmm. Zeke didn't have that. Zeke, mom on point, dad on point, family together. Yep. So there's no reason why you should be acting like this when you got good parents that taught you right from wrong.
Right. Yeah, in the Zeke case with Gallup, I could see maybe where he thought he was trying to lighten the mood a little bit. Like you said, there's a time and place, and it didn't fit in that particular instance. But I could see him maybe trying to kind of like encourage him that way, and thinking in his mind that he's going about it the right way, and it just didn't quite work in that sense. But yeah, there's a time and place for everything, and the Cowboys sound like they're going to continue forward with negotiations with Zeke. And the talk is, it makes it all sound like he's going to be the highest paid running back active. I have hesitations, man. Like, I look at Zeke and I get it. Not to pivot here. Let me throw a hypothetical at you. Not to completely pivot away from football, because that's not my goal at all. You have two 23-year-olds with off-field/court issues. Who would you feel more comfortable giving a historic deal to, Zeke or Porzingis? For the Mavericks.
Oh.
Do you want me to lead off with that, with my thoughts on it?
Yeah, okay. Lead off, because that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know it's a curveball. So I don't know if this footage will end up showing up on the channel later. I did a TPN segment yesterday where I kind of let off in a rant on this kind of thing. It was more so for test footage, but I might work the stuff into it later. So my thoughts on this boil down to a stance that I have held for more than a year. I still think that while some people might look at it and say, hey, what Zeke brings is, you really can't match it. Like, he is one of the 2 or 3 best running backs in the league. I agree with that. In fact, I would say you could make a good case for him being the best running back, really. I still tend to think that, as it opposes to Kristaps Porzingis, I think Kristaps is the better investment there in terms of that. If you could tell me I could only invest in one of them, because in the NBA you have the different free agency market than you have in the NFL. Guys will flock to superstar teams, and they will not do that in the NFL. You just don't have the structure set up in the same way. So not only is Porzingis a superstar player in a league where you have a lot more focus on individual players. Like, you can have a great running back, but if he's not on a great team, you're not going to hear a whole lot from him. In the NBA, you can have individual players take over a game to a degree that you just don't see in the NFL for the most part. Some running backs and obviously some elite level quarterbacks can make an argument on that. But I think that if you were to look at it that way, Porzingis to me still makes the most sense. If you had like one of those guys that you were investing in for whatever reason as opposed to the other. But that's all said, I would still probably anticipate both of them are invested in. I would probably still lean towards Zeke, although, as I've said before, I think that the running back position, you can get 80% of what Zeke is in the first 4 rounds of the draft and pay it, a couple $1 million or $4 million as opposed to $16 million.
Well, I don't care what people tell me. That oh well, we drafted Tony Pollard and Mike Weber because we want to reduce carries from Zeke and all that. I think that's true a little bit, but what I also think is because you know what, Zeke, you've been in trouble before, and we don't know. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cover our tracks just in case. We love you, dog, and we'd like to get you in another 3 or 4 year deal. But you know what? You have unknown things that are over top of your head. So let's go ahead and get a Tony Pollard. Let's go ahead and get a Mike Weber.
Yep.
And if anything does happen to you, we got guys in the fold where we're not going to fall off. Because if they felt so comfortable with Zeke, they would have just signed Rod Smith as the backup again. They would have just re-signed him. But I feel like they don't feel like they were as confident, and they needed somebody who could tote the rock. And as much as they were talking all this trash last year about Rod Smith being a 16-game starter, that's a damn lie. You know damn well Rod Smith ain't starting 16 games for no one in the NFL.
Yep.
So
that's why he went to go back up Saquon, another guy that'll never get off the field.
Exactly, and you're never going to see the field except maybe inside the 5-yard line or some screen passes. But at the end of the day, they wanted some explosion, and just in case Zeke was gone, they have it. What kind of running back did they get that's behind Zeke? Mike Weber. Yep. He's like a Zeke clone. He's not as big as Zeke, but he's like a Zeke clone as far as the running style, where he went, and they had a good relationship. Then you get an explosive player like a Tony Pollard, who is going to be a absolute dog with us. I love him so much. And he is, I just feel like they went out there and said, we're going to cover our tracks. We love you, but just in case, we're going to cover our tracks. And that's the smart thing to do. And if you look at it across the board with the defensive line, the offensive line, they done it across the board. They did by drafting Connor McGovern. You know what, Travis Frederick, we love you, dog, but
it's insurance.
We don't know if you're all the way back yet.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get a Connor McGovern, and we think Leo Collins is not going to be here next year anyway. So let's go ahead and draft that and do that now. And what was Connor McGovern playing at rookie minicamp? Center. And he played it exclusively. You feel what I'm saying? Yep. So they're covering their tracks all the way around across the board with all their players. And I also believe they did it with Taco when they drafted Taco at the first round, because I would think they were looking at DeMarcus Lawrence like, just in case DeMarcus Lawrence leave, we'll slide in Taco, and he's going to be a cheaper form of an investment, and we can get just as much, hopefully, out of him. But then Taco hasn't showed up, so it kind of messed what they were trying to do up. Then you say, well, let's go ahead and sign DeMarcus Lawrence, because we don't know if we have really the strong enough backups to really do what he's did to keep our defense the way we want it.
Yeah, that's the cost of missing on just one first rounder in that case. When you think you're getting as they said they were looking for that year with Taco, a war daddy, when you miss on the war daddy, you have to overpay the veteran in that case. And if Taco was the war daddy they thought they were going to get, that they said they were looking for, they wouldn't have had to give $20 million a year to Tank. Now, that's not me saying I don't want Tank. That's just a general statement,
But you can't tell me, DDP, I love Lawrence. I love D-Law. But you can't tell me if Taco had been showing up these last couple of years being a dog, and then you had these negotiations, I guarantee you Stephen Jones and them would have stuck their feet in the ground a lot more and said, hey, we got somebody who's a backup that's cheaper than you. We don't need to do that. Go ahead and walk. I guarantee you they would have came at him like that, because they were already balking, saying, no, we don't think you as good as Khalil Mack and Aaron Donald, so we're not paying you that kind of money. So there was already contention going back and forth. So if you had a Taco Charlton who was actually doing something in his first couple of years, they would have put their foot in the ground and may not have paid him, because they're like, bye, we don't need you. We're going to slide Taco in because Taco's a left end. Okay?
Yeah. Or the moral of the story as well, don't veto Will McClay and take Taco Charlton over another Watt. So
exactly.
There's that as well. But I view it. I like where the team is at. I like where they're headed. There are some things that I have questions about, but largely I think this team is primed for another good year. And I feel weird saying that, because as we've documented many times in the show, it's been since, how long has it been since they won back-to-back 10-year or 10 years, or sorry, 10 win seasons in back-to-back years. I feel like it's been at least, I don't want to say it goes all the way back to 90s, but it's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time since they won 10 games in back-to-back seasons. And we obviously know that the same team does not win the division in this division in recent history, but like back-to-back years. But I still look at this team, and I still, even looking at the schedule, I don't know. I feel like I fall into this trap every year. I feel optimistic, and I know pretty much everybody around the league looks at this and they think, yeah, we can do a little something this year. But I really do think this team is better constructed now than they were last year, than they were the year before. Really, I mean, even if you think about like our best seasons that we've had, they've come out of nowhere. 2014, we didn't think was going to be a great year. It turned into a phenomenal year. 2016, we were completely down and out. As soon as Romo went down, we thought the season was over, and we knew that Kellen Moore had already gone down. So we're like, here's a 4th-round quarterback. See how this goes for 6 to 8 weeks, or however long Romo was projected out at the time. That turned into a phenomenal year. 17 was then the disappointment, although it was still a winning season. Then we had last season where they end incredibly hot, but they still fall short of the NFC Championship. So it's a mixed bag. I don't know what to make of this team. I look at the schedule, and I think that they're probably an 11-5 team. But I don't know. Do you feel like this season is prime for a step forward, horizontal step? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking 12-4.
Okay.
Last year I called 10-6. I called it, and it was 10-6. I'm gonna go 12-4 because you know what? I think the reason why I'm going 12-4 is I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid at all. I'm definitely not drinking the Kool-Aid. But this is at all the time I've watched Jason Garrett coaching the Cowboys. To me, and I've said this numerous times, this is his most talented team from top to bottom, bar none, in my opinion.
Jason Witten seems to agree. Yeah.
This is the best depth across the board. Young players, not old players. Guys aren't 35 and 36 years old. One of the youngest teams in the league. You got starters and backups now. And you got backups that can slide right in, and you don't feel like you can miss a beat. And that's when you know your team is good. And also, you know your team is good when you're going to cut some players that you're going to be like, damn, we cut him?
Yep.
He's good. That's when you know your team is good. And also, there's pressure on Garrett and Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, everybody's talking about in the locker room and behind closed doors, he's a genius type guy. Then you got Garrett, who wasn't extended in his contract. He's playing for a contract. You saw when he was playing for the contract in 2013, going into 2014, 12-4, he gets a 5-year deal. So those factors, to me, push it up to where, you know what, it's a lot of things on the line, and I just believe we can do it. Yeah. We have just as much talent as any team in the league, bar none. And I feel like there should be no reasons for step backs. And you got good coaching. I read the article, and when I had Anthony Wright on the show yesterday, he said that was big, that the Cowboys have the most former players on their staff. And
by
it ain't
a mile.
Close.
Yeah.
I think they have like 15 former players on the staff. And when I was talking to Anthony Wright, one of the things that he said that he liked was being able to have a former player as a coach because they understand what's going on. They've played the game. They can see the game that they see. And rather than you have a guy who's got a big fat stomach who ain't never played nothing and is telling you this and that. There's a little bit of a disconnect when you see a guy who ain't played the game and he's telling you how to do this and that. That's one of the things that Todd Haley, former coach of the Cardinals and even the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Todd Haley never played a damn dime in football, never played ever. And when he got into it, one of the things the players would say was, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You never played.
Yeah. No, for sure. Shout out to Brett Bender. He clarifies. He looked it up. 95-96 was, in fact, the last 2 consecutive 10-plus win seasons.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. You're a beast.
We're literally dating all the way back to the dynasty. So, wow. I mean, obviously one season after, but still.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. He says we've had a lot of 9-win seasons followed by a 10-win season, but not 10 wins back-to-back in that gap since then. So that's where we're at, man.
Now, I got a question for you, DDP, and I brought this up on the show. And because I said, you know what, I'm going to be positive. I'm speaking positive vibes. It's positive vibes this year. I'm not going to go ham on Jason Garrett. I'm not going to go ham on Jason Garrett. I've been telling myself, I'm not going to go ham on Jason Garrett. I'm going to look at the positives of Jason Garrett. The positive is he has a 56 winning percentage, 77 victories. He has 3 division titles. And when I go back and go through those playoff losses to give him the benefit of the doubt, I don't think it was him that necessarily he did contribute in ways because he's the head coach, but it wasn't him that fumbled the ball, DeMarco Murray. It wasn't him that fumbled that ball in 2014. It wasn't him that gave the fake call that was overturned years later as a catch. It wasn't him that was missing them tackles, J.J. Wilcox, taking bad angles. You get what I'm saying? It wasn't him. So when you look at that game, they played he coached a good game. I mean, I didn't think we was going to bang with Green Bay like that, and we did, and we should have won that game. 2016, we had a bad start, but we came back and balled. I don't see where there was an issue with Garrett as far as it was more bad calls on the officiating. The last pass with Aaron Rodgers, there was a holding call on David Irving, a blatant hold that was not called. Yep. And then Aaron Rodgers throws a crazy pass with a bad call defense and a play missed by Byron Jones. And then you had a Mason Crosby who kicks 3 field goals over 55 freaking yards that he ain't never going to do ever again. He goes the next week and plays the Atlanta Falcons and doesn't hit nothing. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And then when I look at the game against the Rams, the defense let us down in that game. We got gassed defensively. Was horrible. You feel me?
Yeah.
So when I look at it, and I'm going to give Jason Garrett the benefit of the doubt, I can't put all those losses on Jason Garrett because the players play the game, and the players made mistakes in those games that cost us.
Sure. I can say this. You were mentioning earlier how Garrett always coaches better or seems to the team overall performs better in his contract years, which helps him continue on. My answer to that would be give him a 1-year deal every time. Problem solved.
Consecutive, we'll give them like Jordan deals. 1 year, every year, just 1 year, we give you a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to say in 2014, obviously we knew Aaron Rodgers was on one leg. He could barely move at all in the pocket because that was after Ndamukong Suh had stomped his calf in their game, which I think was it wasn't the playoff. It was week 16, I guess. So you had that whole thing happen where he had zero mobility. He was on one leg basically beating our secondary. And I want to say that season as well, Green Bay was basically calling guys off the street to play cornerback. But, yeah, so that year I'm still going to lay at Garrett's feet, even though you had the Dez call. I'm still going to say, yeah, I know Murray fumbled as well. So I can't lay it entirely at his feet.
Our defense sucked in 2014. We just had a lot of takeaways that year.
But we didn't have Sean Lee that year. We didn't have Sean Lee that year at all.
True story.
He went down in not even training camp. It was in like unpadded practice. That was Zach Martin engaging him in a block in his
that was Zach's rookie year.
Yep, his first day, first OTA. So yeah, that season, yeah, I never had high hopes for that defense, but. Yeah, I lay it partly at Jason's feet, but like you said, you can't lay it entirely at his feet. You had the DeMarco fumble that killed you, and you had obviously one of the most controversial NFL rulings, and I don't know how long. I think it's more controversial than the Calvin Johnson rule that people reference in it. But yeah, it's one of those things. You can't lay it all at Jason's feet, and I don't mean to, but I do think this is a put up or shut up year. I honestly don't care about the scenario. If we fall short of an NFC championship this year, I want to move on. We can go for all I give a hell. We can go 16-0 in the regular season, lose Dak Prescott in the first quarter of the divisional round. If we're not in the NFC championship game, I'm still going to be giving Jason Garrett the side eye like, all right, maybe this is not where I want to stick anymore because this was your best team ever, and I get it. Sometimes things just don't break right, but that's how it works in life too. Sometimes things don't break right, and sometimes you just need a fresh voice in the room. So maybe at that point we move on because I'm tired of having excuses for him. That's all I felt like we've had for him. Now, I know I just gave like the most over-the-top extreme example, but I'm tired of excuses for Jason Garrett. This year is do it or move on.
I feel you, and because I mean it's 10 years and nothing's happened, and we don't need a Marvin Lewis situation where you just,
oh my God,
just okay. I understand the concept from Jerry because he's like, I'm old, I don't want to start all over with a new concept, but I feel like that's why you brought Chris Rashard in. I feel like that's the reason why you brought a Chris Rashard in, because he was a guy that you guys could have felt that he's going to be a next head coach. So if y'all felt that he could be a next head coach, he should be the coach in waiting for the Cowboys, in my opinion. So if Jason Garrett doesn't make it, you had 2 years in the system in the Cowboys with Rashard, and he's had coaching experience under Pete Carroll, so he's had some good people around him. And I think another year under his belt with the system could possibly push him to the head coaching ranks, because people are already talking about him, and he's going to want a head coaching job. And he's not going to keep wanting to be a defensive coordinator. So I think that if you're going to do anything, the only two options for me that, the Sean Payton thing is out there, but I think we should stay from within. And I think Chris Rashard should be the guy, in my opinion, that if Jason Garrett doesn't do it, you stay from within, because you don't have to feel like you're missing a beat. You don't have to start back over with a new guy from the outside, and he has to learn all the players and learn the thoughts and the patterns of the players. Chris Rashard already knows all that. So if Jason Garrett doesn't get it done or he falls short, then that's the guy you should move right in there and say, bye, Garrett. You elevate a Chris Rashard to your head coach, and then you start doing your other things of that nature, because I think Rashard is respected in the building and people do listen to his voice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're fortunate to even have been able to hang on to Chris Rashard at this point, because, we know he interviewed for the Miami job, and there were other interests out there as well. So, to be able to hold on to him, that was huge, I feel, and that was a fortunate break. I don't think you're going to get that benefit again. The fact
I don't.
I assumed when they held on to him, at bare minimum, we were going to label him the new defensive coordinator and switch around at least some titles, if nothing else. That hasn't even happened yet. So I look at it and I'm just like, okay, you're not going to hold on to him again another year. Even if you try and elevate him to defensive tackle, he's going to have his stock out there. If they have another good year for that defense, he's going to elevate his stock to head coach rank immediately. So you basically have to, unless you're in the NFC Championship, bare minimum, you have to look at that and say, okay, let's evaluate the stock of our coaching staff, the individual stocks of the coaches. Let's see, we have this guy here that's like the next big thing, the hot commodity. We have this guy who's been largely up and down, largely down in terms of playoff success and all of that. Who would you rather invest in, Jason Garrett or Rashard? If they're in the NFC Championship, we know that they're going to go with Garrett. They're going to stick with that. They're going to try and make him the modern-day Tom Landry, as almost gross as that sounds to say to me. Mm-hmm. But that's the direction they'll go. Unless this team is 8-8, they're not going to look to implement a new head coach or something like that. Or I feel like if they do move on, like you said, Rashard makes the most sense out of the existing coaching staff. I would rather just move him up than just interview other people around the league, because I think you've got the guy. You got the guy that guys will run through a brick wall for. And while that guy might not have long tenures as a head coach always in the NFL, see Rex Ryan and the Jets before that, you can still get a lot of productivity out of them. You can get high return on them for at least a short window.
Yeah, I feel you. Now, I was sitting here listening to you, and I seen this question about J Farm D. He asked us, despite coaching, who has been the common denominator? Who has been the common denominator since '95? To me, Jerry Jones. And do you really think coaching and talent is the issue? I do think coaching has a part of it, because I feel like Garrett has to get over the hump. You know what I'm saying? I think talent. I think we've been building our talent. I still think we could have won even those games in 2014, 2015. I mean, people forget, as much as we lost 12 games in 2015, but if you watched all those games, Dallas was in every one of those games.
Yep.
And I think that's what also keeps Garrett, because rarely do you see Garrett go on 5, 6, 7 game losing streaks. Rarely do you see the team quit on him. The team keeps playing and fighting for him all the time. And that's what Jerry Jones looks at. He looks at, they keep fighting, they don't quit on him. And if you got players that are not quitting on him, if I'm an owner, okay, I want to win a Super Bowl, and I want to win it now. But if I see my players are still giving their all, even in losses, for my coach, that's hard to get rid of. That's hard to get rid of, DDP. Yep. I was a coach. I mean, I ran an organization, a football organization. And if you have a coach that, no matter if your team is losing, but that the team is fighting and fighting and fighting, it's hard to just say bye.
Yeah, I agree.
It is. It just is because these guys are still fighting. When you see guys checked out, it's easy to say, okay, time to move on.
The Wade
But when you
Wilson
saw,
Green Bay game.
yes, you saw the team
Or
gave up on
Wade
him when they moved.
Phillips. Why did I say
Yeah, Wade
Wilson?
Phillips. You knew it was over.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was over after that Green Bay game because the Cowboys quit. They were done. They were done with Wade. It was over,
Yep.
and you saw it. But we haven't seen that yet with Garrett, and that's why Jerry keeps holding on to him. So as you said before, it's put up or shut up, dog. There ain't no excuses for him this year because if we don't have any kind of if the Cowboys do not have any kind of major injuries and they stay relatively healthy free, there ain't no excuses.
Yeah.
There ain't none. I mean, there ain't none.
I agree. And for me to answer Jay Farmadie on your question there, I think, James, you kind of touched on it as well, the Jerry Jones situation. I view it as talent in the sense of financial navigation, right? We know that the trend was to get the flashy toy in the bin, so to speak, in free agency and to overpay. Jerry likes to say the term, or at least he used to like it. The last time we heard this phrase from him was Brandon Carr, the paying sticker price for a new talent or for a big free agent. That was how they used to be run, how the Cowboys used to be run. And so post-championship, 95 onward, once you had to really start dealing with free agency and all that, it came down to being able to build the most complete competitive roster and not just making it top heavy. Coaching will play a part in that in some years. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're dating all the way back to 95, so that's a huge gap to have to cover. But I do largely think that while Parcells helped kind of reform the team and built our championship window, even though he himself was not really here to enjoy it, I do think that got us on the right track, and I do think Wade Phillips, although he's a phenomenal defensive coordinator, I think players walk all over him as a head coach. And as a result of that, I think you had a country club atmosphere where you didn't have the right mentality and you didn't have the right coaching at that point to take a team that should have achieved so much more to a higher level. And when did Wade go away? In 2010, which is when Garrett took over. So that championship window that we built, that stretch where, 2007, we had 13 Pro Bowlers. We had
that 2018 was dogs too.
Exactly, but they went 9-7 that year, right?
But that because Romo got hurt.
Right.
Remember,
exactly.
Romo got hurt early, and he kind of threw the whole because we started off banging on teams.
Brad Johnson.
And it was like, and then we fell off when Romo got hurt, kind of messed up the jive. But just as you said, Parcells came in there and he drafted very well.
Yep.
He got a lot of good
players.
Except for Bobby Carpenter. Except for Bobby Carpenter. But if he drafted very well and it carried that team, and you seen we had a lot of talent, and you hear all these Cowboy fans, oh, Romo ain't never have a team like Dak and this and that. Yes, the hell he did.
Yep.
Yes, the hell he did. Them teams, 2007, 2008, those were some damn good teams and super talented.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the only time Bobby Carpenter ever looked like a first-round pick was when he picked sixth Romo twice
when he was with the damn Lions.
24-0 Lions comeback. That hurts me so much to even think about. What up, Eric Anthony? Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously that's a huge window to talk about, but I think largely a lot of it's been incompetence on the front office part in terms of managing free agency, managing the cap. How much dead money have we kicked down the road over the years? We finally have that behind us, and that's why the future looks bright. Not just because of the core and the talent we have here, but because we're finally not sitting there looking at like $20 million a year in dead cap, and we're like, hey, we actually have money to do something this year. We don't have to say, hey, we want to sign this guy, Travis Frederick, we need to restructure you. Hey, Tyron Smith, we need to restructure you. If they're smart, they'll never restructure Tyron Smith again, because when you restructure him, all you're doing is kicking money down the road that you owe him. And with Tyron Smith, you don't want to kick any more money down the road with him because you don't know what his health is going to be. If you're going to have guys like that, I wouldn't even say Travis Frederick at this point. I would say if you're going to do that with a lineman tend to make sense in that department. You would look at like a Martin or whatever. You're looking more in those directions. So I feel like the front office issue has corrected itself. And now if they fail, more than anything, it's coaching. If they fail, if they fall short. And that was not the case in the late 90s, early 2000s, even to the mid-2000s, I think.
I agree with that. Like I said, this is a no excuse year. There's no excuses. I've been screaming it, no excuses, because like I said, from top to bottom, offensive line, receivers, tight end. I wasn't even excited when Jason Witten came back, but I am now.
Agreed.
Because he can add. He's just going to add to the team.
Mm-hmm.
We got the explosiveness finally in the backfield with not just Zeke, Pollard, and if those guys stay healthy, and that D, as you said, if we can get turnovers, that D is going to be super dope treacherous. And it's really going to be putting a hurting on people. And as you said, there ain't no excuses for us, dog. There ain't no. This is a no excuse year, no excuses. And if Garrett don't get it, all Cowboys fans are gonna be looking at Jerry Jones like, "What the hell you doing, bruh?"
Yep, agreed. So let's see. Before we sign off here, was there another Cowboys topic? I feel like you mentioned something else earlier that we wanted to touch on before we actually jumped on.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about David Goofy
Yes, Irving.
This dude. First of all, I'm not trying to go in on David Irving because I don't know this man personally. Okay, but David Irving, be quiet. This dude jumps on here talking about the weed issue now, marijuana, and now how you saw how the NFL and the NFLPA are going to start assigning to every team, mental health specialists, and marijuana could be one of the things that could help players. David Irving jumps out there and says, "Oh yeah, I should get credit for it because I took a stand and I quit football, and after that happened, they started looking into it." Man, shut the hell up, bro. Shut all the way the hell up. You just quit. You think the NFL, after you just quit, you didn't quit 4 years ago, you just quit. They said, "Oh, David Irving quit. He said they can't take it anymore. We're going to start reevaluating and see what we can do." No, wrong. Yeah. Be quiet. You didn't start nothing, dude. And just like I had Jesse Holly, I posted a Jesse Holly video on my page, and he was basically saying what I agree with, that the NFL is being smart. They're letting the marijuana thing come on and getting real proactive because they know that CBA agreement is coming up.
Yep.
And they know the players want to smoke weed.
Yep.
And they're like, "Okay, you want to smoke weed? Yeah, that's cool, smoke weed. But like you said, 18 games. Oh, yeah, you're keeping that franchise tag because if y'all want to smoke marijuana, this is what we want."
It's a bargaining chip.
It's a bargaining chip, and that's how it goes. And it ain't because they're not going to stand up and say, David Irving was the forefront of why we thought about doing this. Dude, you're just trying to stay relevant. You said plants over pills. So stay over there. Stop interviewing. Stop talking about the Cowboys. Stop talking about your 7-some-inch wingspan and 8 sacks in 8 games. You keep talking about that. Shut up about football. Yep. You said you didn't want it. You said you didn't like it. Go do your thing because you said you can make more money doing that than you ever could with football, and that's a damn lie.
The machine always keeps running. The wheels, the cogs in the wheel keep turning. David Irving doesn't seem to understand this. He's talking as if the entire NFL froze and looked the day that he announced while smoking a joint on his Instagram that he was retiring. They looked as if it was just like, this is a future Hall of Famer, and he's retiring in the name of marijuana. We must look at ourselves. We must change our ways. This will not do. This is unacceptable. This man has inspired me. That's how David Irving looked at that. And that's a joke, dude. Like, you've been gone 5 minutes. People hadn't even had a chance to look at you yet and remember that you're gone.
Right.
And the fact that you think that you influenced the policy is ridiculous. What the hell have you done?
You ain't did nothing, bro.
You flashed things. I can run a strobe light that flashes more than you in your career. Like, it's not anything. You've done nothing. The fact that you look at it and act like you changed single-handedly NFL policy, that your stepping back made them look at it and realize the error of their ways is laughable.
I think he was blowed when he gave that interview because if you go to his Instagram, DDP, if you go to his Instagram, I cannot lie. He got some really good weed on there. He got some good weed on there. I cannot lie. That man got some good-looking weed on there. So let's be honest. So you may have smoked some of that good chronic, took a couple hits and said, "Hey, I did this." You might did that. That might have came up because you got fire on your Instagram. Anybody follows David Irvin on Instagram, that boy got some fire on there. But, bro, just stop trying to be relevant. You said you quit. I don't want to deal with him anymore because when he said basically, well, when he was just lazy, his laziness bothered me. I don't like lazy people. I can't stand a lazy person.
Sure.
When I keep on seeing you coming out of shape in camp like that, you're saying to your...
He misses the first 4 games with suspension every year anyway.
You say to your coach, you get mad at me, coach, because you work hard and I don't. I can just roll out of bed and get these sacks. Why wouldn't a coach be mad at you for saying that to them? That I don't have to try. I'm just good. Yep. No, we want you to try over here. And even Chris Long had an interview and he said he smoked hella trees.
Yep.
And he said it was the drug test is one time a year and everybody knows. So how the hell do you still fail?
Because you're doing PEDs and other stuff outside of just weed.
Yeah, you're doing ecstasy too, bro.
Oh, yeah. Who was the guy with Molly Skandrick when he was here? That was that one. Yeah, no, it's been an issue with Irving. We've always known he's not committed to the game. He's not committed to the team. All he cares about is it's a means of making money, and he's not even good at just putting his head down and doing that. Because if he did, he'd be worth tens of millions of dollars. He'd be getting paid tens of millions of dollars every year. Because if he could have kept his head on straight for at least 16, 18 months, just one 16 to 18 month stretch of his career, he would have gotten paid, and then you could have quit, bro. You could have got your guaranteed money and then say I quit. Yep, take the guaranteed money, walk out. He couldn't even do that because he can't keep it together. He then has to act like he's taking some kind of moral stand. You're not taking a moral stand. You derailed yourself, and then because you didn't feel like taking responsibility for it, now you're going to try and create this new pedestal to step onto and act like you were the one who was ahead of the whole game. For the record, I agree on some of the basis regarding the NFL's policy against lightening its policy against marijuana and all that. And as you said, it's going to be a bargaining chip for CBA negotiations. I agree that the NFL is hypocritical in that regard and that it needs to start backing away from the strictness of that policy. But if you're David Irving, don't act like that's why you're stepping away from the game. You're stepping away from the game because you're all about yourself and you don't care. If you gave a rat's ass, you would have been there last year, late in the year. You weren't rehabbing your high ankle sprain that you suffered, mid-season? You had guys, you had guys who were getting injured in week 16 that were working their ass off and then playing in the playoffs, and you got hurt mid-season and never practiced again. You made your priorities clear.
And also, one other thing about the David Irvin when he's like the NFL doesn't care, I get it because, like I said, make sure, and I'm not making this a plug, but make sure you check out that interview with Anthony Wright because, he said a lot of good things. I didn't know the health insurance, after you retired in the NFL, you only get 5 years of health insurance. I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And he was just telling me a lot of things on the NFL that I didn't know about. So I can sit there and say, David Irvin, I don't know because you were there and I wasn't. So I can't sit there and say I know everything about that. But what I do know is this, that you had every opportunity to do what you could do. You know what I'm saying? You had every opportunity to make it happen, and you didn't want to do it. Then you try to say, oh, I got mental health issues. You try to jump on the Randy Gregory train, well, I got mental health issues. Bro, anybody who plays in the NFL, I know there's concussions and things of that nature, but y'all sign up for this. Mm-hmm. Nobody makes you play in the NFL. Nobody. Right. You don't have to play. You see players that don't want to have concussions, they quit. We've seen players play a couple years, I'm done because I don't want to deal with these concussions. You commend them. So nobody forced you to play football, David Irving. So now you're talking about, oh, they want to give me all these pills and this and that for concussions. Bro, you chose to play football.
Yeah.
You don't think you're not going to have concussions? A helmet is hitting another helmet. That's going to shake your brain.
Yep.
Okay? So every time you do that, there is a risk. You chose to take that risk. So I don't want to hear the excuses when you chose to take the risk to play in the NFL. Now you say you don't want to do it. That's fine. Then stop doing the interviews and stop talking about the Cowboys no more because you don't play in the NFL. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was going to say, do you know when I had my first major red flag about Irving and his NFL future in general, and like whether or not he was
the nipple ring?
No, that was
weird.
That was up there. But for me, it was right after we signed him. We had I forget who it was. Someone had an interview with him, or maybe it was just a locker room portion of the question, and they were talking with him about kind of his previous experience and when he found out he got signed by the Cowboys. And he was saying he had just signed a new lease there in Kansas City at an apartment complex. Found out he got picked up by the Cowboys, signed by the Cowboys. And like that day, he just dropped everything and just broke the lease, basically. And what he means by broke the lease, he just disappeared.
I ain't paying him.
He didn't pay shit. He just walked away. And I was like, I know you're young, but you just ghosted your new landlord effectively. And so I was kind of looking at that like as not very mature. I'm looking at that thinking like, the Cowboys could have done something for you for that, right? Like all you have to say is, hey, can you take care of this? And they're like, yeah, sure, here. Like they would have easily put that aside. But the fact that you're like, yeah, they broke my lease, and I think that's what he said. Like basically when he missed, like he basically was like evicted more or less, and they like kept his stuff that was in his apartment at the time. And I'm like, at any point you could have said something to Dallas and gotten that taken care of, right? Like
you could have.
Yeah, and so
Jerry would have helped you.
It's like a responsibility thing, and I was just like, okay, that's concerning for me. That doesn't look like the kind of guy I want to give a monster contract to, despite his Zeus frame and everything. What was that his nickname for a while that he was trying to get? Zeus?
Oh, what was his name? But he was like the Tyrannosaurus Rex. He was something like Dino. He was a dinosaur.
Yeah, the dinosaur, yeah.
Yeah, he was some kind of dinosaur.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You know what about they say about dinosaurs though, right?
They go extinct.
They weren't very smart. They had small brains.
Yeah. They smoked that good.
They smoked that good and they're extinct. Much like Irvin.
Yeah, pretty much.
Saying.
Oh, man. Well, I think we can wrap it up here. We've been going for, nearly an hour and a half. It's always good to jump on here and talk Cowboys with you, man. We'll have to bring you on sometimes as well to talk Mavs.
I always love it, and I'm ready for the Mavs talk because it's all kind of crazy stuff going on in the NBA. And Toronto won. Shout out to Toronto. They came battling back. They beat Milwaukee. And I'm gonna troll a friend of mine because he flip flops from basketball teams. First he said Toronto, then he said Milwaukee. Now Toronto's about to win. So I'm about to troll the hell out of him on his page because he doesn't know sports.
There you go.
And he's a sportscaster, and you don't know sports. How does that happen? You might get the donkey of the day. Huh?
They just look at the notes that they're given. They don't actually watch sports. But James, tell them where they can find you. Again, most everyone here in the chat probably knows, but for the people who come across this video later who might not know, let them know where they can find you.
Yo, you can check me out or check us out. Me, Producer G, Silver and Blue Nation. You can check us out on Facebook. Just type Silver and Blue Nation. Also, we're really trying to push our YouTube. We built that Facebook really good for 2 years, but we're really going harder on YouTube. So please like and subscribe to our YouTube page. We've been having hella support. Like I said, over the last 36 days, we got over like 130 new subscribers, nice. Which is huge, and I really love it. But keep on liking, subscribing. And I want to say this before I say anything else. It's not about really where you want to find me. Find us, because we're down in this. I call us like the underground kings right now. We're like the underground kings. We're the guys that have the passion. We're the guys that's putting in the work. A lot of us ain't getting paid for this. A lot of us are doing this strictly on passion. Okay, and it's strictly on what we know, what we love. And all of those guys that are on ESPN, NFL Network, and those things, they don't watch the Cowboys. They watch the Cowboys for maybe like an hour or two. They give them some papers, they give them some stats, and then they read it, and it sounds all good. But guys like us, we are studying it all day, every day, giving you the best output or energy that we can give, stats, information, facts, all that. We do that for y'all. So in turn, we'd like for y'all to continue to support us because what we're trying to do, we're going to camps, going to games, things of that nature that cost. We can't do that without the support. So only thing I can say is please support myself, DDP, Law Nation, all those guys out there that are grounded in these underground because we're the ones that really, really care, unlike those other people out there.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And we might be the underground now, but we won't be the underground forever. It's going to eventually turn. We're going to build our own thing. We're going to build it from the ground up, and we're going to overtake the bad journalism that's out there.
Yes.
We're going to make our name ourselves. And you might look at us now and think that we are just the outsiders. It won't be that way forever. But as long as the passion stays there, stays true, then you know that you're looking at the real deal. So stay tuned, stay tight, and we're going to make this thing happen, whether it's Silver and Blue Nation, Dallas Prospect, Law Nation, Voch Lombardi, any of them. We're going to make this thing happen, and it's just a matter of time. So stay tuned for that. We got some great content coming up in the next week or so. Obviously, we're going to have NBA free agency going off. I think we're going to do a live stream for that, so we might see about bringing you on during that stream, during that day, James, if you're up
Please
for it.
Please do. I would love to talk some basketball. Sometimes I never get tired of talking about my Cowboys, but sometimes you just get burnt and you want to switch a little bit. So please, if you wanted to do that, I am all for that because I want to talk some basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. So not a problem at all, man. But that's going to wrap it for this show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I've been DDP. This has been Big Game James. And until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.